Brothers and sisters, we're here for one reason and one reason alone.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Here's an hour you will never get back. It's the 2Dumb2Quit podcast with Jeremy McComb. Oh, this is bad. Here we go. The 2Dumb2Quit podcast starts now.
Friends and neighbors, it's the 2Dumb2Quit podcast. Happy Tuesday. Kind of doing it live today. Normally we get everybody in a little early, but today we're doing it on a Tuesday. So good morning. Hopefully you're having a good morning. Have a super rad guest today, which I'm excited about. We've got MMA fighter, a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu brown belt coach, a dude who is super interested in making your life better and being the best version of yourself you can possibly be, because he's a good dude. We've got Coach Logan Nash in here. What's up, man?
What's up? How's it going, Jimmy? Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Thank you for being here, man. So what's up?
Man, just living another day. Just Tuesday, which means I got a lot of free time today, which is awesome.
Nice.
I'll be back in my gym a little later today, but got some free time today hanging out with you, man.
That's awesome. So Logan runs a gym here in Hendersonville, where I live. It's a Legion Jiu Jitsu team, and they've got 3 gyms actually here through Tennessee, and I know we've got people listening all over the world. But I recently found Brazilian Jiu Jitsu through obviously just being a fan of the UFC and a fan of as people who listen know, the Stoic philosophy. And I found that Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for me is kind of like the physical personification of the Stoic philosophy, and I've really enjoyed it and fell into to Logan's classes and his teaching. And so I wanted to bring him in because he's just a super positive dude and a great role model. My kids go, and so it's awesome. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your background and
Sure.
So you grew up here in Tennessee.
Yeah. I'm born and raised in Hendersonville. My parents moved here from New Orleans.
New Orleans.
Yeah.
I saw your story the other day when the Tigers beat Alabama.
That was a roller coaster of emotions, especially for my parents.
Your parents were going crazy.
Crazy.
All right.
Crazy.
So my buddy Rick Huckabee is a hit songwriter.
Okay.
And his dad coached at LSU.
Okay.
He was
awesome,
a basketball
man.
coach.
That's awesome.
And so him and CJ Solar, I got a bunch of buddies that are Tiger fans, and I was kind of watching that game, and then I saw your story come across, and
it's awesome,
and
man.
it's like watching those guys go crazy for the Tigers. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. If you ever come over to my house, it's literally just nothing but MMA and LSU and Saints.
That's awesome.
Across the entire house.
So your folks moved here from, what brought them here from New Orleans?
Believe it or not, my dad's actually a singer-songwriter as well.
Really?
And, yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I
So
didn't know that.
So that's what music, brought my family up here, which is partially why I love music so much. And music and jiu-jitsu are like my 2 favorite hobbies. So that's why we moved up here, man. And my dad, he's kind of fallen out of the scene. He hasn't done much work in a while, but he still plays in a little band. And he plays in a little cover band, and they do fun stuff like that every now and then, but it's all for fun now at this point.
Yeah.
And so that's how my family got here, and
New Orleans.
Yeah, man.
Do you guys go back much?
All the time, yeah.
Do you?
I probably go back 2-3 times a year.
Now, what part? Because I think when people think New Orleans, they think like first quarter.
Yeah. So there's like a little suburb called Metairie, and that's where most of my family's from, Metairie, and then some's from Kenner, which is just a little on the outskirts of New Orleans. 10-15 minutes away.
Okay.
You can just drive right into Bourbon Street whenever you want.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man.
It's such a crazy. What's that bar down there? It's the oldest bar in the United States.
Oh man,
do you know what I'm talking about?
Man, I couldn't tell you. I can't remember now.
It's down there in the quarter, and it's like they have like gas lanterns still in there. Like there's no electricity.
Really cool.
It's all just like extension cords and shit. Which there's no way that's legal, but. Yeah, man, New Orleans is cool. It's so diverse and scary that it's almost like an adventure when you go down there. Because you're like, this is terrifying, but it's cool.
Yeah, it depends on what time you go, especially.
Yeah. So your folks move up here. Well, like, what year is that?
Man, like 92.
92.
Yeah, I'm 26. So they moved up here about a year before I was born.
Okay. So they moved up in 92. Dad's a songwriter. What'd mom do?
Mom followed dad, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, bless her soul.
Exactly, man. No, my mom, she had her whole career back in the day, and a couple years ago she actually had a brain aneurysm.
Oh, man.
So now she's just part time. She does some like work part time, but she just hangs out now.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, she's awesome.
Doing good.
Yeah, man. Excellent.
Brain aneurysm. That's scary.
Yeah, man.
Was it like? Obviously, those things just like happen out of the blue.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Believe it or not, they caught she was having really bad migraines, and they actually like took a look and
caught it.
Yeah, it was like ready to pop.
Whoa.
Yeah. And they zapped it out. They basically had to put this halo on her head and took like 80% of it. The only issue is like they took part of her like left vision, like left eye vision, so she's got no peripheral out of her left eye.
Okay.
So you can just sneak up on her whenever you
I'm sure she appreciates that.
Yeah, all the time.
Right.
Yeah. But so that's how they got up here, man, and I'm really thankful for that because I love Nashville and I love Hendersonville personally as a city, and
yes,
I couldn't imagine growing up really anywhere else. I've just personally loved it, and then it allowed me to find jiu-jitsu and MMA at a young age. So
yeah, so how does that?
Super thankful for that.
How does that like? Did you start? Because for those of you that don't know, brown belt is right below a black belt, and it takes a long ass time to get there, and a lot of training, a lot of dedication, and actually, so in Logan's class yesterday, I rolled with him, which rolling is like a term of like practicing, like live practice with your teammates, and I get crushed just constantly being a new guy, but I rolled with Logan yesterday, and it was the first time I've rolled with somebody who's like that high up, and it's impressive. It's devastating but impressive.
It's what I've noticed like over the years is just that there truly are like different levels.
Yeah.
And most people, we far overestimate the abilities that we have. When you watch the TV, the UFC is like an average viewer. You're like, could I beat that guy up?
Right.
And not only could you not beat that guy up, but you couldn't beat the guy up who could beat that guy up who could beat that guy up. And five lines worth of
the dude who's holding the bucket to spit in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's super interesting about like the hierarchy of jiu-jitsu is how the blue belts just tear up the white belts, but the purple belts can do the exact same thing to the blue belts.
Right.
And then the brown belts can do the same thing to the purples, and then the black belts can do the same thing to the brown belts.
Yeah.
And there's people who can toy with me and do whatever they want to me. And it makes you realize that there's always, somebody more badass out there.
Man,
there's always somebody bigger and badder.
It's so humbling.
Stay humble.
Yeah, it's so humbling, and it's wonderful though. It's like, because I try to go to the early class, so I get up at like 4:45 to get in there, and I'm like, I never in my life thought I would get up at 5 in the morning to get the shit beat out of me, But there's something so rewarding about it. And so how did you get your start in it? Did you start really young or?
Yeah. So I was like playing around in wrestling as a kid.
Yeah.
But man, I was so severely undersized. I graduated high school at about 5'6", 5'7", 130 maybe, 135.
Okay.
So when I was in like middle school, man, I was almost a near foot shorter than almost all the other boys. So I'd love to horse around and play around, but I would just get thrown around like a rag doll, man.
Yeah.
It was just no fun for me. It was super frustrating. I would always wrestle around with my buddies and just get pinned down.
Yeah.
So I finally, one day I was literally at a buddy's house, man, and it wasn't even the UFC. It was WEC was on, like the Versus Network, and I happened to be there on a Sunday at my buddy's house, and I watched it for probably 6 hours. I sat there and watched UFC or WEC and couldn't believe how amazing it was.
Yeah.
I'd never seen, MMA as a sport before.
Was there weight classes in that, or was it like 140?
Yeah, there
like
were
300?
weight classes in that. But what one of the coolest things I noticed was one guy was getting his just butt kicked the whole fight, and he pulled off the submission at like the very end and just armbarred the guy. And I realized like the effectiveness and how that could just bail you out.
Right.
So right then and there, I started bugging my dad. Dad, I want to do MMA. I want to train this. I want to do this. And when you're a kid, you tell your dad a lot of things. You want to do a lot of things. But most of it never comes to fruition. So finally, after a couple months of me begging him, man, for Christmas, actually, he got me a 6-month membership at an MMA gym, boxing gloves, mouthpiece, the standard stuff you need for MMA.
Right.
And that was like my Christmas present for, like, I was 16.
Yeah.
So that was like my Christmas present that year. And,
wow.
And I never looked back, honestly. I started training and loved it so much. And I've trained at a bunch of different gyms, but I just haven't stopped.
Yeah.
It's been 10 plus years now. It'll be 11 years in January, actually, because I started like January 4th.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So going through that, like as man, I wish now looking back, and I know everybody says this, but it's like, God, I wish I would have started when I was 10.
We all do.
But it was everything for me was just a guitar. I was glued to it. I didn't care about anything else.
Yeah.
So the other great thing that I love about it is you guys do like an anti-bully curriculum too for kids. That's why we put my 6-year-old in there. Knox is in there, and it's such a great confidence booster. You know,
man.
And people of all sizes and ages, and I mean everybody from like 14-year-old Logan. Logan. How old is Logan?
Yeah, Logan. He's about 13.
Yeah, 13 years old, and he was in there with a bunch of 30, 40-year-old dudes. Yeah,
that was me as a kid, man. Like, I was 15, 16, starting with the adults and just get smashed.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude.
Builds character, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But yeah, man, we've got a great kids program, and it's one of the coolest things about jiu-jitsu is just not only the effectiveness of the 1-versus-1 martial arts, but you know, so many schools have a no-hit policy. Right. And we totally believe in being nonviolent, even though we are teaching martial arts and teaching you how to be violent.
Yeah.
In my opinion, you're only capable of peace if you are capable of violence.
Sure.
If you're not capable of violence, you're only just harmless.
Yeah.
So teaching somebody how to be capable of this to not use it. For instance, a lot of the times we teach our kids, you know, if you do happen to get in a fight, you have to defend yourself. All you have to do is take them down, put them in the mount position, which for those who don't know is just essentially getting your legs on top of your partner's hips,
straddling
their
body,
and then just hands on the mat, and then negotiate from there. So we teach our kids not to hit, to kind of fight fire with water, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it's a much more effective way of handling and neutralizing rather than fighting and making things worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Well, and you know, I think it's such a powerful thing because, I mean, like it or I don't know if schools really care that your kid gets hit in the face. You know, it's like,
they care about getting sued. They care about policies.
Yeah. So
they have to cover their own butt, and that's for them. I mean,
I get it, but it's like, man, I don't want it to be my kid who's getting the shit kicked out of him.
Exactly.
There, you know what I mean? So it's such a powerful thing, and then to put it together. So when at what point do you start going like, man, I think I can do this? Because you fought, MMA and take us through like, okay, you're a white belt.
Yeah.
You're going through.
Sure.
You know, what are those next steps of like okay, I'm going to go into a cage.
Yeah.
And
so
get punched in the face.
For me, it took a really long time for me to ever even get into the cage and do an MMA fight. When I was a blue belt, my coach told me, he said, to get your black belt in me, you have to do an MMA fight. So right then and there, that was kind of when I would decide, I was like, I guess I'm going to do an MMA fight. I want to be a black belt. I guess I got to do that.
Right.
But it took me many years before then. When I was in high school, I got attacked by a knife, actually, in the cafeteria, just minding my own business, eating lunch.
In high school?
In high school, yeah. I got put in a rear naked choke with a knife to my throat. And I literally had to defend myself and fight my way out of that. And then, so that was the moment that I knew I was going to stick with this forever, pretty much.
Wow. So a dude puts a knife to your throat?
Yeah, man. So I'm sitting there just literally eating Apple Jacks and sitting there in a chair, and literally a guy just comes up to me, puts me in a choke, puts a knife to my neck. And I literally thought it was a joke. I thought it was a buddy messing with me at first. I didn't even see the knife in my throat. And he pulls me back out of the chair. At this point, I had to elbow him, turn around. I put him in what's called a Kimura.
Yeah.
But it was like a really crappy Kimura because I was I barely knew what I was doing. And then that was enough to at least push his arm away and get the knife out of his hand. And then I just literally kicked off him, came up on the other side of the table. And at that point, our superintendent had come up and pretty much grabbed him. So, but that was the moment, man. I knew I was not going to stop training.
Did the dude go to jail?
He went to juvenile hall, but we were both underage. I had to go to a court meeting about it. Basically, just got kicked out of school for the year.
Really?
Yeah, man.
For putting a knife to somebody's throat.
Yeah, and we could have pressed charges, but that wasn't what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
Ruin a young man's life.
Right.
But it's crazy, man.
Dude.
I always tell people you're either gonna be really glad you were training jiu-jitsu, or you're gonna wish you did.
Right.
And I hope the first one is what happens, not the second one. For me, it happened early in my life.
Shit. I could imagine that.
So for a 17-year-old, that's a crazy reality check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it just shows the world too now. It's like the world we live in is madness.
Yeah, man.
You know. And I think more knowledge on anything is always better.
Yeah.
You know, I've always been, man, I'd rather have my gun and never use it than need it and
100%.
not have it. And I've kind of approached the jiu-jitsu thing the same way, where it's like just having the knowledge of being able to do that. So
Yeah.
the MMA fight, when you're walking, you're like, because, you know, watching the UFC, like you said, it's like, you're like, oh, man, come on, get up, you pussy. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, you can take that. And then you start thinking about it. Like, I sparred with you guys the other night in boxing, and there's a pro MMA guy in there, Kyle, who was barely touching me, and I wanted to leave.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's legit. And so how do you get your mind ready for that? How many fights have you done in a cage?
I've done 2 MMA fights.
Okay.
But I've had about 50 jiu-jitsu matches.
Okay.
But only the 2 MMA fights in a cage. I've done some backyard fighting when I was a kid. That was just totally different. But 2 sanctioned MMA fights, which is totally different. In the sense of it's easy to get to fight on a whim. It's easy to get like mad at somebody and then you fight right then.
Or defending your family or
defending
yourself or
right?
whatever.
It's much more challenging, in my opinion, to wake up knowing you have a fight in 2 months. And then you wake up the next day. It's like Christmas, but opposite.
Right.
Right? Because you know you're gonna like, and almost every MMA fight, you're gonna get hit to some degree. You're gonna take damage and punishment to some degree. So it's like looking forward to the day where you're gonna like take that.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of Christmas, basically. So you do your entire mindset changes, man. You start thinking about the same person for the course of months.
Yeah. Are you watching like tape? Are you watching their fights?
Yeah, generally you watch tape throughout the week or throughout the fight camp. But I don't like to focus too much on my opponent, because then you start focusing on them rather than what you're gonna do.
Yourself, right.
It's important to know what their tendencies are, where their strengths are, and what they like to do.
Yeah.
But it's really important to just play to your strengths and to know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And then, because you never know when your opponent also might back out. My last fight, my opponent, he backed out 2 days before our fight. So they gave me a guy that was a completely different stylistic matchup. Somebody who was like this first guy was an overall like well-rounded guy, and then they gave me like a striking specialist who's like crazy athletic, explosive.
Oh, perfect.
So completely had to change up my game plan, completely had to change up everything. And yeah, it's chaos. It's a wild ride for sure.
So what's like you're walking down to the cage, you're getting ready to go. I mean, what's the emotion like?
Yeah.
When you're like, okay, this is happening.
Yeah. So and almost every MMA fighter says it. Like it's almost like someone else is in control. You're kind of on autopilot. The easiest way I could say it is imagine you're on like a roller coaster, but you have to physically have control of your body still. So like when you're on a roller coaster, you're just like hanging on for dear life, and it's like over before you know it.
Yeah. And
it's kind of the same way in like an MMA fight, but like you're so programmed with certain responses and how to fight. You should be, at least if you're in that far. Yeah. That you're doing it subconsciously.
Right.
It's like the Matrix. It's like Neo in the Matrix. How he's just subconsciously fighting without it. You're doing exactly that. You're just doing what you're programmed to do. So it is almost like somebody else takes over.
That's wild.
Yeah. When I'm out there, personally, I just try to stay calm and stay collected.
Yeah.
And then I always keep in mind what Mike Tyson said: just try to act like you've been there before.
Yeah.
So that's super big to me. I can't stand when I see people that either look nervous or they look like way too overhyped.
Right.
It just doesn't look like they know it. Like I said, it doesn't look like they've been in there before.
Yeah. Like you've been there before.
Yeah, man.
That actually explains a lot of like my first marriage.
Yeah,
it was just a blur and then it was over.
Sure. Hey, man, sometimes it'd be that way. Yeah. Roller coaster ride.
Absolutely.
Huh? Yeah.
So you're doing the MMA stuff, and then man, all the tournaments and stuff, like so Naga is for people who don't know anything about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's like tournaments.
Yeah.
Right. Competitions where you can go test yourself and your team goes out.
Yep.
So Naga is the National Association.
It's a National American Grappling Association.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got those, and then the IBJJFs that come around here, which is like International Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation.
Okay. And so do people travel all over for that? I mean,
yeah, sometimes. Like for instance, 2 weekends ago we had the IBJJF, and the team that won it, their gym is based in Mount Vernon, Illinois. So,
okay.
And they won the whole tournament.
Wow.
And they brought like 80 competitors, or 50 something competitors, something like that. So yeah, people travel from all across, especially like the Southeast for these tournaments.
Yeah.
It just depends on which tournament it is. We've got one coming up this Saturday that'll be a little more local, but generally everyone from like the Tennessee, Kentucky area will travel for these tournaments.
That's crazy.
And we got kids and adults that compete. And then there is team titles, like a kids team title, an adults team title, and then like an overall team title as well.
Yeah. For kids, like for people that might be interested in the jiu-jitsu stuff, where's a good place to start? Like if people are interested, or if they live not in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah, sure. I mean, really, the first thing you can do is just Google Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Google Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah. And just check out, read the reviews about your local nearby gyms.
Right.
I highly recommend trying a class for anybody.
Most of them offer like a free trial, like come down and check it out. 9 times out of 10,
it's going to be free class or free week or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you haven't met anybody that's in jiu-jitsu yet, it's some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. So can't recommend it enough. Just at least Googling jiu-jitsu and trying a free class. See what you think.
Well, it opens the door to so many different people that you wouldn't have hung out with before. Man. Exactly. It's like I'm surrounded by musicians and guys like that, and then coming into those classes, it's like hanging with Jason, and there's guys that are police officers and business owners and janitors and executives, and then everybody is kind of on the same level when they get on the mat, where your belt's at.
Exactly, man. Like, it's one of the cool things about jiu-jitsu. It's like, it truly is one of the places where like it really does not matter like where you come from.
Yeah.
If you came from money, if you didn't come from money, what country you're from or what religion you practice, it really does not matter on the mats.
Your size, your exercise, like your fitness level.
Yeah.
I mean, any of that. It's so wide open, and it's so kind and accommodating, which you wouldn't think, because it's pretty. I mean, as a guy that's very, very new to it, it's very intimidating walking into a gym full of people that are all wearing, the team uniforms and the team gi, and you're kind of the guy standing there in a white t-shirt and shorts, going like, I don't know what to do,
right? And
I don't know how to act or where to stand, and everybody is so kind. And literally, it's not just our gym; it's guys that I've met where, and then since I've started posting some stuff about it, I've had people messaging me like, dude, next time you come to Dallas, we got to go. I'm in jiu-jitsu too, and
man.
I'm like, oh man, that's so wild.
Yeah, man.
So wild.
I think we were having that conversation the other day about like anytime I travel, like I just hit up the near local gym, and let them know I'm in town for a couple of days, and I've only had to pay a mat fee one time. Other than that, it's been just come on in, come train.
Come train.
Dude,
it's so awesome.
They're super cool, man. It's and like with me especially, because I do the same thing for any guests. Just come train, man. We'd love to have you. Jiu-jitsu is my favorite thing in like the whole world.
Yeah.
So if we could share that together, like that'd be awesome. Like I'd love to share that with anybody.
Yeah.
It's like watching your favorite movie with your buddy. Like heck yeah, let's watch it, man.
You gotta see it.
You gotta see it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. How do you did you like coming up? What were some of the things? Because I know personally how I equate the jiu-jitsu thing of just like a life mentality, you know what I mean? I love doing it in the morning because you go in there and it's a great metaphor for life.
Yeah.
Because you go in unprepared sometimes, or you're as prepared as you think you can be, and life punches you in the throat, and you're like, oh man, I wasn't ready for that.
Yep.
And that's kind of, especially this podcast is about, is difficult industries and tough people and tough people that get through difficult situations, based on life philosophy. So coming into, did you are you an anxious guy? Did you deal with that kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, I would say no more than the average person.
Sure.
It's unfortunately nowadays it's hard for me to get a good grasp on it because jiu-jitsu truly did change my life and changed the way I look at anxiety.
Right.
So I have anxious moments and anxiety just like everyone else.
Sure.
But I'm the person that can handle stressful situations a lot better.
Yeah.
And I'm always super cool and level-headed in stressful situations. And I think I have that has a lot to do with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is problem solving at the highest level.
Yeah.
I think we were talking the other day, there's a saying in jiu-jitsu, if you're comfortable in the worst case scenarios, they cease to exist.
Right.
And I truly think that is absolutely true.
Yeah.
And how you said it's a little life reminder, getting stuck under Big Steve with 3 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, man.
And you can't breathe and you're trying to figure out like how you're going to like not get choked out and not get suffocated. Like,
yeah.
And then you look at the clock and it's 3 minutes still,
It's
you
tough.
can survive that, man. Like you can survive a lot.
Yeah, the DMV ain't shit when you know that. You know what I mean?
Man. Not
and
enough.
it's so true, and it's it's just such a great metaphor for every day of like why am I gonna let this bother me? Because in 3 minutes this is gonna be done.
Yep.
And it's hard right now, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and then once you get out of that, where you go, man, I'm better for going through that. I'm a better person. I'm a better jiu-jitsu artist. I'm whatever it is, and that's such a it's such a life metaphor of going through that every day.
I really like that. You said I think stoicism has brought you to jiu-jitsu.
Yes,
and it's so interesting because jiu-jitsu brought me to stoicism.
That's
and
wild.
like more spirituality, which I think really does have like a lot of hand in hand with jiu-jitsu. Like the whole jiu-jitsu lifestyle is very grounded in stoicism and spirituality.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting that you came from stoicism to jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
And jiu-jitsu is what helped me find stoicism.
It's wild. And even the gym, even the layouts of like jiu-jitsu gyms is minimalistic.
Yeah.
It's just mats, and and you realize that it's not the gym that makes the team, it's the people in there.
Yeah, man. Always.
And again, a great metaphor for life where it's like it's not the house you're in, it's not the car you're in, it's the people that you're surrounding yourself with. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who demand the best out of you, that's the other great thing about it. And I know that it's almost like I told my wife the other day, I go, I'm kind of like Kanye West when he finds Christianity, where it's like it's all I'm talking about right now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like because it really is. It's been a next level thing for me where I'm like, okay, so the Stoic philosophy, I understand it. I'm practicing it daily. And then now I need to find a way to connect more with it. And jiu-jitsu has been that. And to be able to get into that and to go like, wow, this is the physical personification of it. The bruises that you have every day. And when you leave, you feel like you're wore out. You gave everything you had. And another great thing that you talked about was, and I think parents need to hear this especially, is you were talking about a coach before a tournament walking out to the parents saying like, don't give your kids excuses.
Right.
Dude, tell that moral that he gave at that story, because it's so powerful. And as a parent, you want to look at it if your kid loses and go and find the excuse in it, and go like, oh, well, that kid outweighed you by 50 pounds.
Yeah,
or,
man. Yeah, so and I'd love to link you if we could like post a video or something, link a video to this.
Yeah, we totally can.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine, Travis Davison. He posted a video of at a tournament. There's 4 types of roles in every sporting event. There's the player, the referee, the spectator, and oh goodness, what's the other role? The coach. Right. So there's 4 types of roles in every tournament. We oftentimes focus on what's the role of the coach, the referee, and the student.
Right.
We rarely talk about the spectator, and as parents, that's what you are. And if your kid is competing in any sporting event,
right.
And I just tell my parents at the beginning of every tournament, just don't make excuses for your kids. That's it. Like just don't make excuses for your kids. If your kid loses,
you're gonna lose.
Yeah, it's 50%.
It's going to happen.
It's 50-50.
Right.
It's literally 50-50. I've never met anybody in jiu-jitsu that has been undefeated.
Right.
Like I've had 50 matches and I've probably lost 15 to 20 of them.
Right.
You're going to lose in this, and you're going to lose in life sometimes. But what's so important is that you don't make excuses, and you don't say, oh, you lost today because that kid was a higher belt rank than you, or
your boss is
outranked
an
you
asshole,
more, or this or that.
Right.
It's, hey, you lost today because that kid was better than you today. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be better than him in the future.
Right.
Did you try your best? That's awesome. I'm super proud of you. And that's it, man. Like that's all it is. Did you try your best? If the answer is yes, we're good.
Right.
But so often we focus on, we focus on the end result, and I'm not for like the participation trophies, but I am for doing your best. And if you did your best, then you can sleep soundly at night.
Absolutely.
You know? That's all kids need to know, man.
Yes, making the work being enough, and that's a common theme, especially on this thing. But the work is enough, not the outcome. Where it's like, okay, if I put in everything I've got and I give it, and your best is going to be different day to day. Some days you're sick, some days you're tired.
Yep. Some days your best won't be your best.
Exactly. And some days you don't feel your strongest. But as long as you can't control that. Totally out of your control. So what you can control is the effort you're putting into it, and then finding, the non-excuse thing is so big because I've got friends that do it, man, where it's like,
it's easy.
They did this and did that, and I do it too, and I'm trying to consciously avoid that, and that's another thing that kind of went in my arsenal when you told that story of my brain, where I've got this kind of checklist where I'm like, okay, am I making excuses for myself? Am I, Marcus Aurelius said, he would wake up as the Emperor of Rome in the morning and go like, I don't want to get out of bed. It's warm in here. It's cold out there.
Yeah.
And then would tell himself like, is that what I'm made for?
Right.
To just lay here and be comfortable. And finding comfort and discomfort, I think, is just such
super
a
important
big thing, because if you can be okay, with, if you can visualize the worst and be okay with it, like, okay, what's the worst thing that could happen? I could lose my job, I could lose my house, and if you can visualize yourself being okay with that, and like, oh, I'm not going to die if that happens. I'm still going to have my children. I'm still going to have the things that I love around me.
Yeah, man.
It really makes you appreciate what you have.
Definitely.
And not giving excuses for it. It's such a powerful thing.
Yeah, man. I kind of had that epiphany after my last fight. Actually, it was a 3-round like slugfest, and I've never been beaten up that badly in my life. I just had marks all over my face, and it was 3 rounds. It was just like brutal, back and forth. Like after the fight, I was throwing up like nonstop. Couldn't stop throwing up. I was dehydrated. They had to ice me down. But I realized like the next day, like I was pretty fine, and like I made it through it like no issues. And like in my opinion, like that's about as bad as it could be.
Right.
And it was like after that, it was very freeing. Like once I realized like that's about as bad as a fight can be. And I was honestly wasn't that bad. I was fine.
Well, and you see people go through like really crazy, life-changing, traumatic experiences, and when they come out, like, when you were talking about your mom's brain aneurysm, something like that happens, your car payment being 2 days late isn't really that big of a fucking deal.
Exactly.
Where you're like, man, put a little weight into this for a minute and figure out what exactly matters.
Exactly, man. A lot of people, they get that second lease on life. And, a lot of people that really live life to the fullest have a story that kind of is similar to that. They had a second chance, or they realized what was important to them.
Getting out of bad relationships, or a shitty job, or finding your passion.
Yeah, man.
Dude, I don't know how closely you watch the news, and I don't know your thoughts on this. Next week, I've got an astrophysicist coming on.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Because they found. This is totally out of fucking left field, but
let's hear it, man.
My ADHD kicked in.
No worries.
There's water plumes on the moon of Saturn.
Really?
Yeah,
that's
like
super
shooting in the air.
It's super interesting. Haven't heard about this yet.
Do you believe in aliens?
I believe it's certainly not impossible that we're not alone.
Yeah, right.
That being said, I also think that like within our grasp and our reach, Earth is the most beautiful and best viable planet we'll ever have ever. So I don't know that. Like, I don't believe in the little green dudes on the on the X-Files and shit like that. But it's like you start looking at all this crazy space is so much crazier than anything you could ever imagine. Yeah, like you could write a book and it would not be as weird as space is. Yeah, I've always had like 2 ideas on that. Either number one, we're not gonna be the ones to make contact with aliens. It's gonna be the other way around, probably in my lifetime at least. And if they do come here, like it's not gonna matter anyways. So who cares?
Like, you can't control it.
Yeah, it's like they could totally just wipe us out anyway, probably. So
well, look at this shit at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah,
that shit is alien, dude. There's fish with like light bulbs in front of their foreheads.
Yeah, man. There's a lot in the ocean that we haven't seen.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I read that statistic. There's like 90% of the ocean hasn't been like discovered.
Yeah,
something like that.
It's
wild.
We watched. Me and Courtney watched this crazy documentary. I can't even remember the name of it. And it wouldn't matter if I could, because I would not tell anybody to watch it. But so the premise of this documentary is they find the shipwreck where they were like, okay, this is where this guy had taken all this shit out of these palaces and was sailing it somewhere else and disappeared. They never found it. This guy finds it like during this documentary. So they go down, and then they have like this. The diver comes up and gets everybody in this closed room, and they're like, "I got to talk to you guys," but their mics are still hot, so you can hear them talking in another room. He's like, "We found probably 1,000 gold bars," and so he's like, "We got to keep this under wraps. We got to get under there." And so they start taking these cameras down to this dive, and they're finding these crazy sculptures that they keep just bringing up, like these insane. And I'm sitting here watching it, going like, How is this not all over the fucking news? Like, there's no way. And so this goes on for 3 hours, 2.5 hours. It gets to the end of it, and they're diving, and they're like, we found the biggest statue on the boat. And it comes over it, and it's the dude who made the movie holding on to Mickey Mouse's hand. The whole thing is bullshit.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was all to promote this guy's art gallery in France. I was so pissed. I'm like, dude, I thought this was real for like 2.5 hours.
I thought you were describing Into the Blue with Paul Walker at first.
Oh.
Have you ever seen that movie?
Is Samuel L. Jackson in that?
No, it's him and Jessica Alba.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
no, but I'm interested already.
Hawaii Five-0, I forget his name.
Hawaii Five-0?
The new one.
Okay.
But yeah, I thought you were describing the plot of that at first. That's super interesting, man.
Yeah, but it was a total waste of time. I was pissed. Right. I was so pissed by the end of it.
Have you seen Icarus?
No.
Icarus was so it was a documentary originally about how this guy who was like an amateur cyclist wanted to try steroids.
Oh.
And then he accidentally like stumbles upon something like way deeper, and he ends up basically just stumbling upon this whole like Russian investigation that's going on with steroids and all this stuff. And if you ever get some time, it's on Netflix. I think it's
okay.
Icarus.
Icarus. Okay.
Cool. Joe Rogan's talked about it a decent bit.
Really?
Yeah, it's a pretty wild documentary.
Dude, the steroids, like, have you dealt with that with people in the sport?
I mean,
have you been
like,
around it?
I don't know if I've fought anybody on steroids.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody that does steroids.
Yeah.
But I do hear that like a lot of the people at the top level of jiu-jitsu are, and it's something I've been hearing about a lot lately is like more testing in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Because really it's just in the UFC that they really heavily test
the hell out of it.
So local MMA fighters could probably get away with it. And then, like, most jiu-jitsu guys could probably get away with it because there's not too much testing there. But they're starting to become more and more.
I've got a buddy who, an acquaintance, I should say. But, like, me and Courtney went over to their place one time, and he was just, like, he was swelled up. And I was like, hey, man. And I'm like, what's going on with you? Air compressor. He was like, we're sitting in the middle of the tour bus, and the air, all these doors are run by air, so that air compressor kicks on. But he was all swelled up, and I'm like, man, you've been hitting the gym hard. And he's like, I'm on some testosterone, and he goes, you know why people use steroids? And I was like, no, not really, And he goes, because they work. Yeah, and I was like, well, I guess that makes sense. I mean, I guess getting through injuries or shit like that. And
yeah, for jiu-jitsu, I would imagine it's to be able to train repetitively.
Yeah.
Because, like, for instance, like I spar no more than like 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And because it's all my body can handle.
Yeah.
With, weightlifting and hot yoga, whatever else I do. About three days of sparring is about all I can handle in a week.
Yeah.
But there's some guys that are sparring, daily or twice a day, and there's a reason they can handle that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a reason why I'm falling apart at 26, and some are in their mid 30s doing just fine.
Dude, I'm 38, and I've treated my body like a honky tonk for the last, I don't know, 22 years or so. So it's this is a whole new experience for me, not being whiskey glazed and out on tour. So you've got like what? You've got the steroid thing, and then there's like HGH. That's the.
Oh man, yeah. I don't really.
I don't know anything about that shit,
man. To be honest.
Then there's stem cell stuff, which I've been reading a bunch about.
Yeah, I've heard some good things about that for like injuries.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Back injuries and stuff.
You're gonna have to ask a neuroscientist about that.
I know, dude. The astrophysicist.
Astrophysicist.
The guy, I emailed him and I was like, "Hey man, I really want you to come." He's down here. He's a PhD down at Vanderbilt.
Okay, cool.
And I go, "Man, I want you to come on the show." And he goes, "Well, I don't know if I'd have anything interesting to talk about." And I'm like, "You're a fucking astrophysicist, dude. I'm a musician. I don't have shit to talk about." This dude knows how galaxies are formed, which blows my mind. It's like, damn. So what as jiu-jitsu opened up for you, what life philosophies kind of have evolved from your training? Like, what takeaways have you had from going in and kicking the shit out of yourself for 20 years?
Almost all my life philosophies have come from jiu-jitsu. So it's hard to just pinpoint one.
Yeah.
Especially when it's been such a main staple in my life. But it's really helpful with it starts with confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people are egotistical or cocky, which in my opinion does not come from confidence. It comes from being unconfident in yourself.
Yeah, man.
So I think just being a healthy person out the gate is just being confident in yourself, which also allows you to tell the truth to yourself, and not get ahead of yourself. Staying humble. Jiu-jitsu helped me with all that. Really, I like to compete. I like to coach, but really, jiu-jitsu has just been such an. It's been the vehicle in which I live like a healthy life through.
Yeah.
Whether it's just, I got to get some aggression out or anger out, and I spar for 30 minutes, and then boom, it's done, it's out. I have no more like aggression or hatred in my heart.
Yeah.
Or I just need to remind myself to stay humble. I just got to roll with one of my coaches, and then I remember that I'm not shit. So,
yeah.
You can do that. And then, there's so many lessons that I've learned, and what's really interesting is I've learned a lot of lessons as a student, but I've learned those same lessons again as a coach.
Yeah.
Or I've learned different lessons as a coach. And like lately it's all been about to me patience and gratitude.
Yeah.
And my friends always joke with me about that, because I don't have any tattoos, but if I were to get 2 tattoos, it would be patience and gratitude, just to remind myself.
Right.
Because patience with my students has been such a big thing. Kids, adults, whatever. Jiu-jitsu is hard. Jiu-jitsu is really hard to learn, and it's harder in my opinion to teach.
Yeah. Because
it requires such an intense amount of patience.
Absolutely.
When you're teaching somebody how to do a Kimura, and they're just completely backwards and totally not even close, it's easy
this
to
is me we're talking about.
It's every student. It's every student. It's easy to either laugh or snicker or joke. But it's much harder to remain calm and remind them hey, this is really hard. Don't worry. We're gonna get you there. So just teaching jiu-jitsu has made me have so much patience.
Yeah.
That I'm really thankful for that. But not only just patience with jiu-jitsu, but patience with life, patience with relationships, patience with myself even.
Yeah.
Realizing that I'm still a work in progress. I'm still growing as a person. And then just gratitude for what I have.
Yeah.
Thankful for just the ability to get out of bed and train and to teach, to have the ability to impact others on a daily basis like I do.
Yeah.
And then just grateful for everything in my life.
Well, and you touched on the lying to yourself, and that's all ego does, man.
Yeah.
And everybody's got you've got that thing where, and everybody knows that part of themselves where it's I can't tell you for how many years that I was man, this is the year I'm gonna get in shape, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take better care of myself. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, and I didn't. And it was because I would make excuses for myself. I wouldn't hold myself accountable, and ego being, your body's resistance to feeling less than, right?
Yeah.
So it's oh, well, you didn't win because.
Right.
It's that lie again of excuses, or you didn't win because that guy's bigger than you are, or you would have had him, or
We're in a generation of that.
Right,
We're
exactly.
living in a generation of that.
Or sit with like 10 dudes and watch the NFL.
Yep.
You know, and you go, how do you not fucking catch that?
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, I want you right now to stand up, put both your hands in the air, and just fall flat on your stomach without bringing your hands down.
Right.
If you can do it, I will give you $1,000.
Yeah.
Because you can't.
Exactly.
I mean, and so it's one of those things of like the ego is just it just lies to you, man, and it ruins you. It ruins your potential. The minute you start going like, man, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And I just want to be a sponge, and I want to learn and approach the things humbly is when you actually start to gain the confidence, because confidence is earned,
Exactly.
right? You earn the
Hit
confidence.
the nail on the head, man.
Yeah, you earn the confidence in jiu-jitsu by going to class all the time, or exercising, or your hot yoga stuff. How does that all work, by the way? I've got a couple buddies do the hot yoga thing.
Yeah.
Is it just it's 1,000 degrees and you're in there?
I wouldn't say it's you ever done a sauna?
Yeah, I done sauna.
It's like a halfway sauna. So it's like, you know, in a sauna, like you walk in and you feel that heat hit your face and you smell it almost. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, it's like halfway to that.
Oh.
So it's not as bad, but
Yeah.
it's about halfway.
There's some stinky some bitches got to be in there.
Man.
No?
Normally, honestly, man, I'm the only dude. Like
Really?
Mostly it's just a bunch of like girls and then like 2 or 3 dudes.
There you go.
But what's really great is like, honestly, like the instructors are so amazing. Like I can't speak of all gyms, but like I go to Santosha Yoga, gonna give them a plug.
Yeah.
So at Santosha, man, like they're so good with their coaching cues, and like as somebody who is a coach myself, like when they're like, I'm in the stretch and they're like, press through a little more through your heels or straighten out your back. Like when you follow those like little coaching cues and you realize you go like a little deeper in your stretch,
right,
it makes all the difference in the difference of doing yoga by yourself, watching a video, or
right,
like taking a class with somebody like pushing you. I mean, it's
Sure.
literally like the class I do is a power flow class, which is like a workout. And I mean, they're literally like, you're ready to give up, and they're like, don't quit, Logan. I'm like, crap, I better not quit. You know, so their coaching cues are amazing. But
Really?
yeah, it's like I've had a lot of back pain over the years from a lot of jiu-jitsu and MMA. So
Yeah.
it's just helped me so much with back pain. I never don't leave feeling tremendous after a hot yoga class.
That's
I
crazy.
leave just feeling so good.
Yeah.
That I reckon, like, come do it with me, bro.
All right. I sweat putting my socks on, man.
Yeah, man. It's dude.
Courtney's
you're
like,
gonna
don't quit. Put those shoes on.
Yep. You just got to bring a towel, bring some water, sweat it out.
Oh man,
You'll feel way better after.
dude. Well, I tell you what, man. It's a pleasure chatting with you on here, and
Yeah, man.
and so going to people who might be looking for a little extra push through their day, being a great coach, which you are. You are a wonderful,
man.
wonderful coach. And that's the other thing that's kind of blown me away, because you're 26.
Yeah.
You know, there's a Zakai.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
he's 19.
19 years old.
And he
Yeah.
teaches a class in the.
Yeah, he started when he was 3.
Started when he was 3 years old.
And his dad's a black belt as well. He's one of my best friends. He moved away. He was my old teacher, actually. His dad was.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
So his dad moved out to Iowa, and he's a pastor out there, actually. And
Really?
he owns his own gym, and he's a pastor.
That's amazing.
And lives out in Iowa, and his son stays here, and he's going to actually be going to UT in the
Good for him.
the spring, I think.
And he's man, he's a badass. He's
a great guy.
really, really
Yeah,
good. And you've got all these, you know, again, you've got guys like me in mid-30s and
Yeah.
even further. I mean, 50s. You know,
Yeah.
Swift. I mean,
Yeah.
what? He's in his 50s.
Yeah.
And so, just seeing all the age ranges, and then the coaches that come in with this great mindset to get you ready for your day. So, if there's something that you could kind of leave people with when they're looking at whatever's on their plate, whatever's in front of them, what would you say?
You know, there's so many different things you could say, but again, I would bring it back to 2 things. You know, it's easy to tell everyone to just keep pushing, and you're gonna have those bad days. But really, I like to bring it back to gratitude and start with what you are thankful for and
Yeah.
the things that you're capable of doing. And once you realize, you think about the things that you are capable of doing, you probably will realize that the tasks you have in front of you aren't nearly as grand as the ones you've already faced before.
Yeah, man.
So if you just stay thankful for all the things that you are capable of, and carry that confidence with you, then that's going to take you a long way in itself. But also just, just really keep pushing it, whatever it is in life, whether it's a physical push or a mental push. Chances are, you're almost there.
Yeah.
And if you just keep pushing one more day, you're probably gonna make it there.
Yeah, man. It's like that old. I saw a drawing one time of a guy with a pickaxe, like in a mine.
Yeah.
And he's
exactly.
like, I'm done.
Yep.
But you can see behind like one more hit, and the gold nugget is right
exactly
there. You know what I mean?
Man.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
And and also too, I think taking away everything in your mind that you do have, and imagining how much you would want that back if you lost it all.
Yeah.
And I think it really puts it in perspective of like, man, life is good. I've got it good. I'm surrounded. Even if you're in a tough situation, man, you've got purpose in your chest, and it's beating blood every second. And don't waste it.
Too many people forget that we are the masters of our own destiny.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to say, oh, I'm here because of this, or things didn't work out because of this.
Yeah.
And it goes back to not making excuses for yourself. Just like you shouldn't make excuses for your kid, don't make excuses for yourself and tell the truth to yourself.
Yeah.
You're only here because of yourself.
Right.
And only yourself can change that at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Logan Nash, everybody. Check him out online. You can also look at the... and if you're not in Tennessee, there are Checkmat gyms all over the country.
Yeah, so Team Checkmat is a worldwide affiliation. We've got Team Checkmat gyms all across the country, all across the world. So if you're ever interested in training, definitely look up a Team Checkmat gym. If there's not one near you, just check out jiu-jitsu. I can't recommend it enough. It really will change your life if you allow it.
Absolutely. And so there we go. Friends and neighbors, get you going on a Tuesday, 2Dumb2Quit podcast. Logan Nash. Go watch him fight. You can go online. Watch his fights. It's awesome.
Jeremy, thanks for having me on, man.
Dude,
really
you're the
appreciate
best.
it. This bus is awesome.
Thanks, man.
So glad you're training
Glad
with us,
you're here.
man.
Thank you, bro. All right, man. So we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Check out jeremymccombs.com as I spill my tea everywhere. And we're getting ready to go back out on tour in December. We're headed back going to Texas. And so if you're in the Lone Star State, see if we're getting close to you. And then doing our 3-time loser tour, which we do at the end of every year with Rick Huckabee and Dan Important. We'll be out in Venice, Nebraska, out at Bucks. We'll be in Clinton, Wisconsin. I think we're going to have 2 sold-out shows there. And then Illinois and Minnesota. So check it out. All right, friends, happy Tuesday. Go out and get them.